Good morning and welcome to Office Hours. Every day we're here helping you, hopefully, learn more about production and digital video and all the rest of this stuff. Alex Lindsay is going to be reading today. So, Alex, what do we got for our first question?
Thanks, Bill. Our first question is from John Foltz in Selinsgrove, Pennsylvania. And John asks, I have a 15-foot lobby wall and want to display big impact video when folks enter. LED walls are $30,000 for 1.5 millimeter for that size, and a 100-inch screen TV is too small. Can the panel suggest other options for less?
And Courtney Gooden's going to start us off this morning. Courtney?
You know what? I've seen a lot of YouTubes of people have done this to their basement studios and things, is go buy 3 of those 98-inch, or you don't even have to go that big depending upon what your measurements end up. 3 monitors, mount them vertically like this, and put mullions around them, and they look like a picture window. And then you can just hook all 3 of those monitors up to a simple one of those little PCs. That can supply an image across 3 vertically oriented windows, output on one of those little mini NUC PCs. And you got a super high resolution, much tighter than 1.5 millimeter, because they're, 4K screens. And people can walk up to them even and not see the pixels. So that's a solution, a cheap solution for 3 large screen LCD TVs mounted vertically. Put a mullion around them so they look like a picture window. Either that or projection, and then depends on how much brightness is in your lobby, whether projection is going to work from an overhead projector.
Ronnie Hofsøy is up next from Tromso, Norway. Ronnie?
Yeah, and that also depends if you would like it to look like a window. Using TV displays in vertical is easily made to look like a window and with a high resolution, it actually looks like something is going on if you choose your pictures wisely. Of course, there are other solutions depending on what the theme should look like. If it's going to look like a projector, it will be looking like a projector. Then you have to use a projector. So a short throw or even a longer throw with a powerful type of LED projector I've used on that type of scenarios with good result. But of course, it looks like a projector, and it normally is up to 4K, if even that much. So using the TV vertically is a good idea. Make sure you have enough cooling for them. That's one thing. Not all TVs are meant to be mounted vertically, so do some checking if you go that route. Another thing is to have, as already said by Courtney, frame it so that it looks like a part of the wall and have all cooling, etc. On the backside. You can also add LED strips for some Omni lights around this area if you would like to do that. There are several options for that as well.
And Alex.
Yeah, one of the things that 1.5 is really important when you're putting people in front of it. You may be able to get away with a lower pitch or a higher pitch, so a 2.6, 2.3, somewhere in that range. You're going to find that price drop is pretty dramatic between 1.5 and the 2.6. There's a pretty big jump or pretty big drop in price. The other thing that you can look at is if you're adventurous, what we had, our friends from View, when they got started, they really figured out how to buy stuff from China directly. So using Alibaba and others, the screens are a lot less expensive, but you really have to know what you're doing. So that's the other side of that. You can definitely drop the price pretty dramatically if you do that more direct route, but you are trading time for money. So, but I would first look at a higher pitch, so a 2.3, 2.6, somewhere in that range. And I think that you're going to find that probably looks just fine for that wall.
John, we hope that all helps. Next question.
Next question is from Zach Stallsmith in Chautauqua, New York. And Zach asks, I'd love to start getting my hands dirty with AWS. Should I utilize their free trial with 750 hours a month for 12 months, or is there a better place to start? And he gives us a link.
Guy Cochran's going to help you out here. Guy?
Yeah, it depends on what you want to do in the cloud. If you just want to learn all about AWS, there's a lot of free, what they call skill builder courses. In fact, they just came out with one a couple months ago that's really good, and it's called the AWS for Media and Entertainment Content Production Foundations, and I'll put a link to this in the chat. I went through a lot of these on a recent plane flight where I just had time and burned through at 2x, almost all of them. There was I think there's like 30 of them, and it's a lot of content. But it depends on which cloud that you want to be in. Do you want to be in Azure? Do you want to be in Google Cloud? Because for media professionals, a lot of people are using multiple instances, and that's the reason why you want AWS or any of these, is that you can say NDI in and then go over to another machine and then over to another machine and over to another machine. So you're using like 4 machines instead of just one. If you need to just use one and you want to get used to something like vMix in the cloud, you can just go to a website like this one called Shadow PC, and they have some real hot rod computers. So some of these with 12 gigs of RAM and an NVIDIA 1080 are good for Photoshop and OBS. So you get used to, if you're a Mac person and you've never really dove into using a PC, this is kind of fun to have 28 gigs of RAM with the RTX 3070 for $54 a month, because you could get carried away real fast in AWS. I mean, the free tier, it's very anemic. It's a T3 micro with like a gig of RAM. So a gig of RAM with one vCPU, which is one core. So it's very anemic for doing anything video related. It's hard to install apps. It just doesn't feel snappy at all. Whereas when you get into the tools that we use, they're G4DN. Those are the graphics instances, and they're going to be about $1.50 an hour. And if you forget to turn one off, you can run into a $750 bill by the end of the month for leaving it on. So there's pros and cons to all of this. I say just jump into Shadow PC, install vMix on there, get used to how it all works. You could use something like Video Ninja to bring in a video source, or Zoom even, and get used to cutting a show and outputting it back to YouTube. But that'll get you started. But again, go back and watch the Foundations course, and that'll really get your mind around what's going on up in the cloud and what's possible.
Zach, hope that gets you a lot to start with. Next question.
Next question is from Andy Kokendorfer in Viera, Florida. And Andy asks, how do you write a contract language to ensure that an AV vendor uses automix for Zoom in a venue? Recently had an issue where the vendor had the right Allen Heath mixer, but decided they, quote unquote, knew better despite instruction.
Alex, you've never run into a client who's known better, have you?
Yeah. So, I mean, how they do it, a lot of times we don't necessarily micromanage like this is what you have to do. But what we do is make sure that we rehearse with them to do a test. So the way that automix is often used, the way we use automix often, is that we put a Dugan automix on the Zoom contributor and the stage, and each mic pushes the other one down while they're talking, and it definitely makes a big difference. There's other ways to do it. We just find that that's one of the easier ways to do it. So the problem is you put it in your contract that you say, well, you have to do it this way, and they don't understand how to do that, it's not going to be any better. So what you are holding them accountable to in the contract is that they will have an echo-free experience in the room, and that they will do the necessary pre-pro to do that, because it's definitely possible. And so you can give them advice on this is the way we've done it in the past and it's been successful, but it's mostly telling them what usually in the contract, what you want to do is not prescribe what to use or how to use it, but it is to prescribe the result, and that you expect that result in the contract. And then the other side of that is to mostly when we work with vendors that are not us, not Brian Maddox. So we will get on the show with them the day before. The other things that we do pretty often is we try to push people towards, hey, if we're going to do a Zoom interaction, we'd love to do it after lunch or after a coffee break or at the beginning of the day, because what we want is the room before you go live. And so what we want to do is do that final test with the person right before they do it. So we usually recommend against doing it in the middle of a conversation, or if we do it in that middle of that conversation, it comes after a break. So we try to kind of push those angles there because it just gives us the best chance of success. But the main thing is you want to test heavily, and it's really clear in rehearsal that they're not doing it right when it doesn't work. And then they're clear, you're clear, everybody's clear that it's not working, and then they have to figure it out, and they'll either figure it out themselves, or they'll start taking some of the advice that you give them.
Hopefully, Andy, that makes things clearer for you. Next question.
Next question is from Travis Morrison in Perth. And Travis asks, I went back to Office Hours Global Focus on AWS series from 4 years ago. Thanks, guys, Cochran, for the tip. There was a big focus on Elemental Live and MediaLive services. Are these still relevant today, or is it best just to build a VM in AWS and use more modern encoders?
Elemental Link or virtual machine? Guy Cochran, what do you think?
Yeah, back 5 years ago when we did this getting started with the cloud, essentially Tucker came in and a couple of us that had Jeff Keithley, Jonas, Chirig that dabble in the cloud did a full run through, and it took 4 episodes, 4 Fridays. And so I sent in Discord a link to Travis to those episodes because it's still relevant. Some things have changed, but this question in particular involves a $999 piece of hardware. It's a little orange box. It basically has SDI or HDMI in, and it sends it up to AWS. So you could Ingress is free, so it can come in for free. So you could just hook up like a PTZ camera to it, and you could just have a venue where you could just flip on a live stream. But there's a workflow to it. It looks like this. So you'd have your source content, you have MediaLive, and then you have destination, and you can package it up and you go to CloudFront. There's different ways of shooting this video across. The thing is that you can forget to turn one of those off as well, and those services are sitting there transcoding that video into another flavor or format, and you could get hit with a big bill. If you just have a G4DN, for instance, that's the EC2 instance, the one that we run vMix on, you can just launch something like NDI Bridge, and you can bring in video that way. SRT is another way using vMix. You can just say add input SRT, and that'll bring video in. So we call it ground to cloud. How do you get your video up to that instance? And the Elementals are a decent way, but nowadays it's not that it's antiquated hardware, because the Elemental Link 4K is well, it's kind of expensive, and it's basically just an OEM version of the Osprey Talon that Osprey makes that encoder. So there are cheaper ways of doing it. NDI Bridge is probably the cheapest and most effective way, I'd say, for normal people. There are some things like the Makito X4 that we talked about yesterday that are 10 grand, where you can feed 4 signals up in sync at the same time. But that's how the pros do it. That's a whole nother world for most of us. Tucker just bought 2 of them, so I guess it's not a whole nother world if you're dropping 20 grand on 2 Makitos.
Don't forget, we're always taking your questions. That's what runs our entire show. So you can ask questions, chat about the questions, and vote on them in our Mukana system. That's the Q&A system we use here every day live during the show. If you go to officehours.global/join, that will send you an email within a day or two. And once you've done that, kind of gone through the little trail, you can vote on, discuss the show's question. There's actually a community that's live during the show every single day that chats about what's going on and adds more content actually on the outside. That's officehours.global/join. So follow that link and you'll get there. Next question.
Next question is from Paul Wallace in Austin, Texas. And Paul asks, will these DIY sound blankets stop echo and reverb from affecting your audio and also assist in your lighting?
Okay, big topic, and we have a lot of help for you here. We're going to start with Courtney Gooden.
Yes, they will, though the video they link to shows using a C-stand to support a furniture pad that is black in this case. But you want to look for furniture pads that are black on one side, white on the other. That way you can assist with lighting, so that you make sure you don't get the blue or orange ones, because they're going to color your scene, because light will reflect off of them and then give everyone a blue or orange cast to them. And also make sure you look for some that have grommets in them. If not, you may have to put the grommets in yourself and buy a little grommet kit that you can get to poke holes and put grommets at about every 2-foot interval, so it makes it easy to attach them along their one edge. And then you can hang them either black side out or white side out, depending upon whether you want a negative fill or a positive fill, and bounce lights off of them. And of course, they do absorb sound quite well too. Make sure you get the cloth type, because they're making them out of paper these days, or non-woven material. Don't get those.
And Ronnie Offsoy.
I'm pretty sure the product that are being used in this video is the one that comes from Vocal Booth to Go. By a coincidence, I have a lot of these, and they are working pretty well. We tend to use both the black as a negative fill and the white side as a positive reflection of light in the studio. And we also put them around people or seating groups if we need to reduce reverberation coming from the adjacent walls or even the floor. We put them on the floor just to fix small problems. They are not fixing standing waves. So if you have a small room with a lot of standing waves, which imply that you need to do some room treatment that are more advanced to have a good audio playing in your room from speakers, that's another thing. But these will be a kind of quick fix in a video and slight reverberated room, I would say. They don't do magic tricks, but they fix some of the problems.
Alex.
I have lots of these. I don't use the ones that they have there, but my room is unusable without them. Like, unusable. Now I'm in a tent. Like, you don't see it here, but basically all the way around is all these sound blankets. And I have white on one side, black on the other. I use white because I like it to be just kind of big and diffuse, but you can turn them black and white. Now, I don't buy them from Vocal Booth. I buy them directly from Amazon without the grommets. So they're about a quarter of the cost if you buy them without the grommets. You just have to be ready to put grommets into them, and it is not a trivial problem. I recommend that if you do a bunch of these, you get the big grommet thing that comes down. You don't try to do it with the hammer. Ask me how I know. So like it took a long time for my thumb to recover.
I'm
from
imagining pounding. Yeah,
I saw my bone. So I would recommend, if you're going to put the grommet in yourself, is that you get the big one that comes down on it. But basically, if you're willing to do the grommets yourself, you'll save a lot of money. As you can see, I bought this set 3 times at least. They're great. One thing to think about when you do this is not just that the way they show it there is not the way I would use it. You want to have some fullness. So they have this kind of 100% fullness, 50% fullness. And what you want to do is you want to pull them, cinch them in so they have some waves to them. That's going to greatly increase when they're not all flat. That's going to greatly increase their absorption, of reflection and so on and so forth. So make sure to get some twice as much as you need. So if you need 15 feet, get 30 feet of it, and then put the grommets in, and then pull it together so that it's more like a curtain that goes there, and it's going to be much more effective than just flat.
You can actually see 100% fullness over my shoulder. My catch light over there is on the fabric on my wall, and it's doing exactly what Alex is speaking about. Guy Cochran.
Yeah, as others have said, for certain types of frequencies, depends on what's on the other side of those walls. We've installed these inside of a lot of colleges where you go into this bare wall. There's nothing in there except for just low pile carpet, and you do the clap test. And before the blankets, I have a bunch of those right here. Before, it was just reverberant, and then you throw one of these in there, and all of a sudden it soaks it up. But the aesthetics of it, when we were doing these nice looking rooms for these one-button studios, we wound up, we did the first 100 or so installs with these blankets, and then it just looked kind of, excuse my term, but ghetto. So we switched over to something a little more aesthetically pleasing, which is those F-Sorb panels, which look like this. And they do the same job, but they just look so much better. So it depends on if you're actually going to have clients come in. I still use the blankets when we go on location. I always like to have a couple just in case it's a problem solver. You get into a room where you're just like, hey, give me a C-stand and let me just use a couple clamps and clamp these things up and cut off some of the reflections. But just be aware that if you are going to have clients coming in and whatnot, the aesthetics of it, overall look and feel of your studio, if you want it to look plush, or if it's okay for it to just be moving blanket pillow fort type thing.
You laugh, but I've done probably 4 or 5 voiceovers where I was on location, somebody needed a repair, and so pull out the 416 and throw a sound blanket over my head literally and just do a couple of lines of copy. So they are effective if you use them correctly. Next question.
I'm forgetting that it's me. Next question is from Andy Kokendorfer in Viera, Florida. DHL suspends international shipments over $800 to the U.S. Is a product rate hike to cover added cost of gear appropriate?
Oh, he's a production rate hike. So should you charge more since we're getting hit with these? Courtney, what's your opinion?
Well, that depends on whether it's your gear that you're shipping, if you're purchasing gear from a foreign country. What they've done is they've just repealed the de minimis charge for the de minimis act, which exempts shipments from foreign countries like China or Taiwan or India that are valued less than $800. They don't have to go through customs. So besides the additional cost of whatever tariffs may be involved, and the fact that this is why some shippers are now just preventing it, because then anything over $800 has to go through customs. Now, anything even under $800 has to go through customs. And not only does it cost you more because tariffs have to be applied, but everything's going to be clogged up at the port of entry. So everything's going to have to go through customs, even little packages worth $50, $10, anything you buy or want to have imported. It's going to hold it up another week or 2 or 3. And depending, since they just removed the whole idea of the de minimis exemption was to relieve the amount of stuff that was having to go through customs and the length of time it would take stuff to get through customs and imports. So not only do you have to take into account the extra cost of the tariffs that will be applied to anything under $800 if you are able to bring something in, you're also going to have to make sure that you order everything another month in advance to make sure that it'll clear customs and get to you before your production starts. So those several things to take into account. The best thing is to just source things domestically until they work out things and things settle down tariff-wise, and see if they reapply that de minimis charge to increase the flow of stuff through customs.
Alex?
I have to admit, my quotes aren't tight enough to the cost of goods that I need to change the prices. Usually, when this happens, what I'm looking for is market rate or market rate for the rentals for those things, because I'm renting that gear to the production. So I don't really think that hard about the cost it takes for me to buy it, as much as I think about what is the market rate, the fair market rate for that hardware. So that's usually what we calculate into that for the most part. And you have to decide how much gear are you buying. For the most part, we own most of the gear that we're buying, or we're renting it from somebody else. I don't buy a lot of new gear for every show. So I'm not that sensitive to a small change in the way DHL brings stuff in, because I generally buy almost everything, just because anything that's more than $800, I just don't want to deal with customs. So I don't tend to want to buy anything internationally at that. I don't buy anything over $800. I generally don't buy anything over $300 or $400 internationally, just because I don't want to deal with customs. So for whatever reason, I've had some run-ins with them, and I've just decided I don't want to do that anymore. So I buy from B&H, I buy from Sweetwater, I buy from a variety of Gotham Sound and so on and so forth for things that I need, as opposed to trying to save $10 to order remotely. So it doesn't really affect, I think, how I look at it. But again, it's what we have, what the market rate is, and what other people are charging me for their gear.
Don't forget, we are a global show, which means that sometimes it's not the right time for you to watch when we're doing our main show in the day. And thankfully, we have other shows that are starting to pop up around. Extra Hours takes place on Monday for those around the world for whom the main show timing doesn't fit. Grant Whitehead hosts that one. On Tuesday, we've been doing special shows, so keep track of the email that we send out, and you'll know about those as they come up. On Wednesday, Conversations with Tony Mobley, the longest running show here on Office Hours. Thursday, the Rundown with David Paskin hosts a panel that talks about the why behind the latest tech. So those are just some of the things, and we're continuing to mount more as time goes on. So keep track of the email, and you'll know what's happening. Next question.
Next question is from JB Windle in Chiang Mai, Thailand. And JB asks, can the panel recommend a solid iPad mount? I'm using the SmallRig one now. It's okay, but it only has 2 points of contact, and I'm not sure it's the best option.
Okay, this will be an interesting topic. Guy Cochran, give us your opinions.
Yeah, there's two that I have. The first one is called the Axoon Cage, and it does have multiple mounting points. The bummer is that if you use the keyboard, the Apple keyboard, you have to take off the keyboard and then slide it into this cage, and then it's got all the mounting points. But it is a thing where you have to have a tool and you have to unscrew each one. So I rarely use that one unless I need it, because. And the other thing is that one has the power MP style batteries that you can put on the back. So if you're going to use this thing for a long period of time, it's nice having that battery just integrated right there. So that one looks like, let me show you a quick picture. Looks like this. It's $129, and you can see all these different mounting points. It is super solid, but you can see how it comes apart with all these screws. I mean, it's a chore if you're on set and you're just having to deal with this. So if you have a dedicated machine, it's probably a little easier to do than what I've had to do where I'm taking it apart. The other one that I'd recommend that I have as well that I like a lot is this Triad Orbit, because you can see here that it's not just holding the iPad, it's the ability to mount all these other accessories and swivel the thing around. So I have all these different clamps, and I can put it on a stand, and then I can put something below it. I can put a microphone. I can like down here, you could see this little mounting point. So you swivel it around here, and then you could add a light, a microphone, more of these clamp style. So it's a whole ecosystem. I'll put a link to the chat to Triad Orbit, but that's my favorite.
Ronnie Hofsoy.
Yeah, we've been doing this for years, and some luck and some not so lucky ones. First and foremost, there are literally hundreds, if not thousands, different types of cages or mounts, etc. So we have, since we're doing a lot of stage use and in venues, both outside and inside, we've kind of tried to standardize this, and we are using a lot of products from K&M or Koenig & Meyer, which has for their own stage use, they have, I think, close to 20 different models supporting each different type of need you would have, if that is the size of the iPad, if it's how do you mount it, if it's going on a normal C stand, is it going to be standing on the floor, would you like to have it on the table, etc. So I'll put a link to this guide in the chat, and you can try to have a look yourself. Just be warned, the K&M website is big, so tread carefully.
Alex Lindsay.
David Brady suggested the Heckler design, which I hadn't seen before. It's very pretty. Like, it's a very pretty stand. He said they use these for their controllers. Mickey also talked about RAM mounts, X-Grip. And the one that I have is this. It is a SmallRig, but it's the universal cage. So they have one that just the one that I think you have is less expensive, and it just goes on top and bottom. This one has a couple more points of mounting, and I chose this one over the Axoon iPad power cage because it has more mounting on the sides. So there's more options on the sides here for me to grab onto. It's a little less expensive too, but that wasn't. Mostly it was just that I wanted to make sure that I grabbed it, and I find this one. I mean, the problem is that I got into the SmallRig system, and then you're afraid that all the little things are going to be different distances if you start getting other things. And so I have a lot of SmallRig stuff, and it works great.
Great ecosystem. I have a different problem, and since everybody who's watching this is probably thinking, yeah, I should look into those, I'll ask you to solve my problem. This is the iPad holder that I typically have my iPad in, and the reason I love it, it is huge and soft, and it's got a long strap, because if I'm out in the field, and I pick this up all the time when I'm working on script, I pick up that and my pencil, and I just want to work on the patio, and I want to have this rig, and it's not mounted to anything. But the hand strap and the rest of the stuff makes it so large that if you put it into any of the gripping mounts, they're almost all designed just for a bare iPad, with nothing like this on. So I've been trying to look for about a year for some kind of a holder that screws down or clamps, but that has long clamps on it so it can hold the whole iPad in this. And it's been a nightmare. I haven't been able to find anything.
I wish that Peak Design did something, because like I have their little mounts for my phone, and I just snap my phone to things all the time, like snap it over here, snap it over there. I have little snaps that from Peak Design, and I'm kind of addicted to that, but I don't think they make one for an iPad.
Yeah, I just need something that has one of these clamp type mounts that has something that's maybe 3/4 of an inch deep, and then it would grab this successfully. But I'm always worried that I'm going to knock that off the mount because of that. So my little individual problems, if anybody has a solution for me, I appreciate it. Let's go to the next question.
Next question is from Alexander Knight in Port Coquitlam, British Columbia, Canada. And Alex asks, if you wanted redundancy in an SDI setup where you split all signals so that they go to two different switchers, is there a passive solution with a transformer isolation similar to an analog audio split?
Courtney's going to help you out. Courtney?
Not really. There's SDI is a digital signal, so it's 800 millivolts, positive and between positive and ground. It's square waves. And so anytime you go through a transformer, it's going to round off those square waves. It's going to make your signal more harder to discriminate between the positive and the negative pulses. The better solution would be to go with you can get these cheap JTech splitter that is a digital splitter. It reshapes your signal coming in, has one in and two out, or you could use our decimators, which have DAs built into them. You could try it. I would advise against it with just a BNC T connector. It doesn't have to be transformer isolated. You will half the voltage going into the two switchers. And if the switchers have a high enough discriminator in the input, you may still get a signal. But the problem with this is that if one switcher goes down and it does something like terminates the inputs when it goes down, or put some strange voltage across that strange voltage is going to go into the other switcher. So I would not use T connectors to split between them. I would always go through a digital distribution amplifier, even if it's a 1x2, almost $30 ones. They do have to be powered because they reshape the signal going in and coming out.
Ronnie Hofsoy.
Yeah, exactly. Like Courtney said, there are often cameras that has HDMI out, and then you go to the first HDMI to SDI converter. What we are using sometimes is that we use the Blackmagic bidirectional converters or similar at the camera end. And those converters have this feature which is actually possible to duplicate the signal going out. And no, not the bidirectional, the other converters, that is HDMI to dual SDI outputs. But it's kind of clunky, so you have to run two cables from the camera positions into your rack or whatever you are doing, if it's a flight pack or similar. So what Blackmagic has done is to have another category with products called routing and distribution. And recently they released new video hubs. So I would suggest you get with one line from the camera or the source, the video source, going into some kind of video hub, if it's the small new ones or a larger one, and all us that uses video hubs know that you need at least 2 times more than you first think you need, and this is probably the best way to split signals. And using a video hub, you can have much more flexibility in sending signals everywhere else as well.
Alex?
Yeah, video hubs are like bags. You'll just fill them up. Like no matter how many outputs you have or inputs, you won't usually fill up all the inputs, but you'll fill up all the outputs because suddenly you have this, your brain starts to think in all the different ways that you could send that signal. You don't want to do anything that's passive. Just get a video hub, decide what you need, look at exactly how many inputs, more importantly, how many outputs you're going to need. And as Ronnie said, I would multiply by 4. So whatever that is, multiply by 4, and now you're in the route of the place where you're going to grow into it. A lot of people buy 10 by 10s. They immediately move through them. 20 by 20s, buy them 6 months. 40 by 40s, within a year or two, you're looking for a 120 by 120. You just because your brain starts to think in all the places that you could put the video, and it really is a freeing experience to use a video router. You can add to that if you want to extend a video router. Then you start getting into things like now you can get into passive patch panels and so on and so forth, where you can repatch things for the video panel, and that's going to extend the use. When you walk into a big truck, you'll see lots and lots of patch panels that are extending what the truck can do from going from show to show to show with only a 256 by 256 router or 288 by 288 router.
And Courtney had a quick follow-up.
Yeah, if you're doubling up on switchers for redundancy in case one goes out, be warned that if your video hub goes out, now both switchers are dead. So keep that in mind. Make sure you have backup power supply on that video hub if you go that route. Or buy one they do make them that have duplicate power supplies built into them, so that if one power supply fails, it automatically switches over to the other.
Let's go to our next question.
By the way, David Brady said that he has a patch panel that's normal down. I do non-normal patch panels because because when I pull something out, I don't want to see any videos. like if I pull something out, I don't want to be surprised. I'm very risk adverse. I just want to go black. So anyway.
I'm going to pause on the next question for a second because I need to remind you, if you have questions you want to put into the show queue, you can always do it through the quicker system. That's askofficehours.global. Just type that into your web browser, or if you'd like, you can use the QR code that I'm about to throw up on the screen. That will get you directly into the kind of quick queue. That's askofficehours.global. Just put it into your web browser, or you can use the QR code I just tossed up. If you're watching the show, it makes it very fast to get a question in. Those questions kind of stay in a separate system, though. It's unlike Mukana. You can't. They will eventually be tossed into the show queue, but just understand that one's quick and one's more deep. I think that's probably my feeling about them. Next question.
Next question is from Steve Uroff in Madison, Wisconsin. And Steve asks, a storage vendor support tells me copying files directly from camera cards, often exFAT, with specific metadata to SMB shares can strip important metadata, causing issues. What metadata might be lost in this copy?
Oh, this is a big topic. Alex, you want to dive in?
It depends. Generally, there's not a lot of metadata that you need, but cameras can save extra data about the camera, about what was the scenes, sometimes even color information that it's going to save into there. So I think what they're talking about is you just grab that file, and sometimes those files are invisible. So if you just see them and grab them and move them over, I think what they're referring to is you may not get them all. Whereas if you use the dedicated software that is designed for whatever camera you're using, it's designed to see those files and make sure that they continue to travel with the files that you shot. But it really depends on the camera.
Yeah, everything Alex said, I agree. Phil Hodges, my old friend who is very, very steeped in this, used to talk about camera metadata, volume metadata, and file metadata. So if you're just grabbing files and copying them from one storage repository to another, you may be getting just 1/3 of the potential metadata. And sometimes things like camera metadata can be really useful because it'll do camera settings. So the file will come along with how white balance was set and a lot of other things. Sophisticated systems, and most of the NLEs today are very sophisticated, can read that and help you do things like instant color correction because that information has traveled with it. Volume metadata can also be important for finding things because it'll tell you exactly what the ID of that storage original card was. So if you end up with a stack of cards back in your office that you're reading in, you don't want to divorce those cards from exactly what the card number was, when it was shot, and the rest of that information, because that can be very valuable in post when you're trying to look for a class of shots that have that metadata in it. So Phil always told me, do clones of the entire card or the entire tape or whatever it is you're digitizing. Don't separate those files unless you absolutely know you're never going to need any of that stuff, because you will lose metadata as you copy things along if you copy just the files. Alex, you wanted to come back in on this?
Yeah, and Mickey also recommends Hedge or ShotPut Pro for data wrangling your footage. And those are designed to make sure that they grab onto all the data that you need between cameras. And if you're on a set and you're really doing a pro, like I need to move things over and make sure that everything is done correctly, those are the two apps that you want to use.
Absolutely. They're great, and they do checksums to make sure that every bit on the original cards ends up in the file that you're copying. Ronnie, you wanted to weigh in on this as well.
Yeah, some vendors like Sony do have their own kind of proprietary software to transfer from their cameras. Something called Catalyst Pros is something that we use. It makes it easier for us to just verify everything. It's like a DIT kind of tool, but it's only for Sony cameras. And it's easy to just copy files. You can rename things. You can have kind of an overview of what you have copied already. You get duplicate warnings, and you can also do other stuff. And that contains most of the metadata, like the lens information, etc. So just look around. If you're not using Sony, I'm pretty sure that your vendor of camera also have something similar.
Next question.
Next question is from Paul Valhus in Austin, Texas. And Paul asks, what do you recommend for a Media Pro grade power outlet with remote control USB?
Alex, do you have some thoughts for him?
I don't really recommend anything. I haven't found anything that I liked. I have some Eves that are remote controllable. I don't think they have any USB, but they're remote controllable outlets. And they're fine, except I have to reset them about every 3 or 4 months. Like they just decide to do something different and they ignore me for a while. So I don't have any I can't say that I have any that I'm happy with.
Sorry about that. Next. Oh, wait a second. Courtney has a thought. It came in late. Courtney?
I haven't used any of these. Monoprice, which we like occasionally, does have some remote control. They're not USB. These are Ethernet controlled or IP. Power strips are used for rebooting servers remotely, etc. I don't know if they have a USB control on them. It doesn't look like it does. But this is a 4-unit strip, and they're kind of pricey. I think they're $300 or $400. Get back to here. So yeah, $259. So it's going to cost you a little bit to go that route. There are some cheaper ones that you can get at Home Depot that you could try that work with the A-Lady and the Google Home that are Wi-Fi controlled. As far as USB controlled, I'm not familiar with any right off the end.
Next question.
Next question is from Douglas Carmichael, and Douglas asks, I've been using Alex, thank you very much, no, I don't think it's me, to help create a macOS app in Swift. When I first read this, I was like, how did he use me to do this? I don't understand. To mirror the display of my Synthstrom Deluge groovebox, and it's been amazingly effective. Has anyone else had a positive experience with AI-assisted coding?
Alex, do you have some experience with this, with coding with yourself?
I haven't had it. AlexCodes.app. I have not used myself to do the coding. I have used some AI tools to do it. Right now, I'm playing with Google's new tools to do this, but I've also done it with ChatGPT and Claude with a lot of success. And so I find that the key is that I start small. Like I need to do the base thing that the app needs to do. And then I start adding things to it. Okay, well, now I need you to do this, and now I need you to do this, and now I need you to do this. And I'm able to kind of build up an app. Now, I'm not going to build a complex app, and I'm not going to build an app that I'm going to release. But I am able to hack together some pretty interesting things that I can then show programmers and go, hey, this is what I'm looking at. This is what I'm trying to do. Or a lot of times, 99% of them are just stuff I needed to do. So it's not for anybody else. It's just for me. So, but I am building an interface right now that's going to tie back to Airtable because Airtable's forms don't look as nice as I'd like them to. And there's some other features, and so I'm coding all of that right now in AI. Now, what am I going to do? I'm going to hand it off to somebody, but I'm going to save them a lot of time because all the logic and function will be working, and all they have to do is clean it up.
Nice. Hey, if you value what we do here, there are a few ways you can help. You can like and subscribe to our YouTube channel at officehours.global/volunteer. That's another way you can volunteer and become part of the team that makes this possible, or you can donate at officehours.global/donate. We are a 501c3, so it'll help us out. Next question.
Next question is from Tim Snyder in Louisville, Kentucky. And Tim asks, doing a gig this summer where I will have lots of potential roaming cameras, very small budget. Is an iPhone a possibility for this type of thing? If so, how would you get this footage into an ATEM, and are there rigs that you would recommend for this?
Alex Lindsay.
It is, you have to decide. I mean, again, when it's very, very low budget, you start making decisions about what you can and can't do. You have to know that people have to know that it may not work as well. Now, the main thing is if you're using iPhone 15s or above, you are going to have a USB-C out that can be converted to HDMI, and that can be connected to lots of things: Hollyland, Teradek, DJI. All these things can be connected to those cameras. That may be over your budget. Axoon makes a couple things that are available as well that can do those. I will say that it depends on also how far you go, like how many roaming cameras and how much do they need to roam. So the thing that I have used when the budget is extremely small is simply what I've been using is Apple TVs. And so we've used these in studios for a long time, and knock on wood, they always work. And I always go, this is a horrible idea and no one should do this, but I keep doing it. And we've had now we haven't had a lot of them, but we've had up to 4 up there. And so we have 4 different Apple TVs. And we just simply pair the phones to them. There's a little bit of latency, so it's not going to be a zero latency connection. But we use them a lot for people who want to show their iPad or show their phone. And I've used them as little wireless cameras, and they have absolutely worked. And I would never recommend it to someone for a professional job that they were getting paid for. But we've used them in studios for professional jobs because the Apple TV is sitting right under. We mount them right under where the iPad's sitting. So if there's 4 of them, they're jumping by 6 inches, on a dedicated Wi-Fi, backbone. So there's things that we can do, but they have worked.
Guy Cochran's up next. Guy?
Yeah, in addition to Alex's recommendation, depending on how far those phones are going to go from any kind of hotspot, you have to resort back to cellular. And if you can get away from the ATEM, I would actually recommend going with something like an OBS or a vMix and going SRT. Lyrics Broadcaster is a way of, it's a simple app. It is a paid app now, so if $9 is in your budget, then I would go with that. The tool that I really like is SRT Mini Server, because you could text a link, and when they have Lyrics Broadcaster on, they just click this link and it automatically starts sending that feed up to you, and you just see it pop. It's that fast, but it's a QR code or an iMessage link, and you just boom. There's demos of it on their website. It's fantastic. It really takes the guesswork out for remote contributors that don't really know much. You just say download this app and click this link, and I'll take it from there.
Ronnie Hofsoy.
Okay, so I'm not going to revolutionize this, but I'm just going to mention that this can be done with an iPhone or even an Android device. You install an app called Zoom, and then you just feed your feed through Zoom. On the other side, you have an instance of like vMix or MimoLive or similar software that just pipes this out to a decklink card or similar. So you can use this entirely in the software and just jump over the ATEM if that's not necessarily to be used. And this will get you a really good result. I've done it. It's working.
Courtney Gooden?
Yeah, and going back to the Wi-Fi method, if it's not too large an area, you could make sure you use, if you're going to use Apple TVs, or you could even use, if you're even chintzier, I've used a lot of these on TV from Walmart. This is a little streaming box similar to the Apple TV, only they're only $19.95 for 4K box, and it supports both 2.4 and 5 gigahertz and Wi-Fi 5 and 6. But I would use 2.4 gigahertz for its punch and distance. Get you a separate 2.4 gigahertz router that is that only, and put it up high above everyone else's head if it's out in a venue somewhere, and make sure the SSID is not on the internet and is not shared. Do not share. Make sure it's password protected, and don't share it with anybody else. And then you might be able to use that to connect to multiple of those on boxes using either AirPlay. Those on boxes support both AirPlay and Miracast. So depending on whether you could have Android phones mixed with iPhones going to each one of those little $20 connections. And then the HDMI outputs then out of each of those little boxes go into your switcher.
Alex?
And Mickey suggests the High-Vision Mojo Pro with a Stream Hub decoder, which I'm not familiar with, so it'll be interesting to see that. Also, David Brady said in his House of Worship, Apple TV with Sienna NDI monitor, it's $99. iPhone with NDI HX, which is free, works in a pinch as well.
So there are a lot of people interested in doing this. Continue to come back with your questions here at Office Hours, and we'll see if we can keep you up to date on what's most current. Next question.
Next question is from David in Cape Town, and David asks, I have a mobile 6 HDMI camera setup that I will be moving into a new permanent studio. Would you recommend switching from HDMI fiber cables to a SDI or NDI workflow that will entail extra costs on converters, etc.? Is there a downside of HDMI fiber?
Alex, you want to help him out?
If you already have HDMI and fiber, if you already have these long HDMI cables that are that are fiber, I don't think there's any downside to keep on using them. So there's not, it depends on whether you have to have other runs or not. There's no downside, and if you're already I'm assuming you're in an HDMI environment. You've got an HDMI switcher, you've got HDMI cameras, you've already got the cables. There's not really any reason for you to switch if it's all working. If it's not working, you can make some decisions. I have a tendency to, the least costly way to do this is really SDI. So you can get very cheap HDMI to SDI converters from Blackmagic. You convert it. Now, it gets expensive. You buy the HDMI cables, the SDI cables, but we just buy a roll and terminate them ourselves. And so the SDI is really cheap when you buy it by 1,000 feet at a time, and then you just simply cut it to length and plug it in where you need it to do and terminate it. So I, again, in general, as James Haldane says, the HDMI fiber cables can be a little bit, they're expensive if they break, and they can be a little bit delicate. But if you already have it and it's already working, I don't know if I would necessarily change it immediately. But if I was going to change to something, I'd probably just change to SDI.
Next question.
Next question is from Pedro Gonzalez in Washington, D.C. And Pedro asks, there is a 4K live stram cam set up in Tromso, Norway. What hardware is needed to accomplish this?
Alex is popping in. I was
jumping
wondering
in
if Ronnie was.
Ronnie didn't tell I was like, Ronnie, you live there. So
Yeah.
he's like, I don't know, I didn't do it. So this is the feed. It's live right now. It's a feed that is really high up.
How lovely that is! Wow.
I mean, the main thing that you're looking for is something that's going to be able to provide an outdoor weather PTZ or an outdoor weather camera. It doesn't look like this is moving, so I'm guessing that it might be in a housing, or it could be in just an outdoor setting, so that it can handle the whatever's there. And then you need to figure out internet and stream it. Security cameras can do these. At the quality that this is showing right now, I would say it's probably a security camera with an RTMP or something similar, which you can get for a couple $100.
Ronnie, do you know any more?
I know the company that did this, so I will give them a call tomorrow and find the answer for you.
Okay. Next question.
Next question is from Håkan Forres in Stockholm, Sweden. And Håkan asks, what hardware is needed for NDI Bridge PCs, both sides, if you want to bridge 2 to 4 NDI sources?
Guy Cochran's going to help us out here. Guy?
Yeah, you need a host and you need a joiner. So there's two sides of the equation, and they don't have to be super powerful machines. with 4 feeds, depending on if it's HD or 4K or 60p or NDI HX, and depending on if you're actually going to traverse outside of your network. So there's 2 modes that the NDI bridge operates in. One is just do not transcode. That's basically taking NDI and kicking it over to NDI on your local network. And you can do this for a number of reasons. One person had a church and they wanted to do a vMix output to 40 TVs. Well, if you hit 40 outputs on that vMix machine, you could make it really struggle because well, depending on your switch, you could have what's called multicasting, and it could help take care of that. But they didn't have a managed switch, so they put a bridge in between that. And now the bridge machine can spawn out all those other ones. The way that like we're using it with Oliver for these PTZ cameras that we're dropping in city council chambers is I'm the host here. And the reason why that's important is I have an open port on my firewall. So when you use NDI Bridge traversing the internet, you need the host to have an open port. And so that's the side of the puzzle that a lot of people can't do because they're in a corporate firewall environment. So 2 joiners can join a host. So I can be here in Seattle and the city council chamber in California can join here, and then another operator at home in California could join, and now they can see those feeds and they can cut those feeds into whatever show that they want. But as you start to grow, you do need a GPU that is by NVIDIA or the Intel Arc card or by the ATI Radeon folks. Those are the 3 that start to accelerate those things when you get into H.265, because there's a quality slider where you can say low, medium, high, ultra, and depending on how aggressive you get with more feeds and 2160p 60, you can get up there in terms of data rate pretty high, 24 megabits a second. You get 4 of those, you're saturating a computer pretty quick.
Next question.
Next question is from Harold Williams in Portsmouth. And Harold asks, I'm looking for a smartphone app that functions as a director's viewfinder. Which one would you recommend?
Alex, do you have some notes for him?
Yeah, my favorite is Artemis. It's not cheap. It's not the least expensive solution, but it has all the lenses and all the cameras that I need. It's got a great interface. It's really easy for me to. I wasn't able to kind of pull it up. I put my phone down somewhere. I can't find it. Anyway, but Artemis is my favorite. Artemis Pro is, and Ronnie Hofsoy and Ronnie and Mickey agree with Artemis. CAD Rage is the other one that we see often. So people who don't want to spend quite as much on Artemis will use CAD Rage, and both of those. But those are the 2 leaders. Artemis Pro by far. When I'm on set, if someone pulls their phone out, they're either using Artemis Pro or CAD Rage, and 80% are using Artemis if they're actually using it for that. And it's really useful for site surveys. So when we do recce's, and you're going out and you just want to see what this is going to look like, or you're going to see what this is and capture something and show it back to the to someone, it's super useful to be able to simulate the lens.
Next question.
Next question is from Tony Mobley in Noonan. And Tony asks, how many panelists have their primary camera connected to the ATEM Mini, and what camera are you using for that connection?
Alex, you want to start us off?
I am connected to an ATEM Mini Extreme ISO, and I am connected. It's an FX30 is what I'm using with a G series 1.4 lens.
Courtney Gooden.
Trying to get a picture up, but I don't. I'm using a Canon M50 Mark II, which works great. And ever since I got it, it's been running. It has HDMI out for 1080p, clear screen, so there's no indicators on the HDMI output, and that's going directly into my ATEM Mini. And I have it powered via a dummy battery that goes in there, so it keeps it powered, never goes down, and I've never had a problem with losing the camera. It's been stable for 4 years and staying on for hours at a time.
Ronnie Hofsoy.
Yeah, I have a Sony ZV-E10, which is actually having overheating problems, but having the battery compartment and the dummy battery fixes that. And that goes out from the camera using a HDMI cable into my ATEM through, I have a Constellation, so it goes through a converter before it hits the ATEM. So it's working very fine. And of course, when we are moving more and more into summer, I guess the overheating problem will be more visible.
And I am using a Blackmagic 6K that I borrowed from CJ because mine died. But anyway, and it's showing that picture right now, which is the release of the new Insta360 8K that I'm going to be studying up overnight, thinking Alex might get excited about the new 360 camera from. Ooh, yes. I think we'll be talking a lot about this tomorrow. 8K and 549. So. That takes care of our show today. Thank you all for paying attention and watching and staying with us through the course of this. We really appreciate everything you do. We appreciate you as our viewers, the people who make this show possible. We call you our producers, and we're serious about that because you really do program the show with your questions and your votes on those questions. So thank you for that. For the panelists who show up every day and add their expertise to things, thank you very, very, very much. And to the back-end crew, the amazing back-end crew that really does make this a special event every day by working diligently, not just during the show, but in all the things we do in the back-end system. We mentioned volunteers earlier. If you'd like to volunteer, you will meet some really incredibly nice people, and you will learn a ton about the leading edge of technology because that's what we discuss every day here. Our Telectraversal today, 53,000 miles. That's 86,000 kilometers or 422 million. Bananas for scale. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Thank you. I don't know if very good.
Are you excited about the new camera?
I haven't seen it. I knew that I saw that they were going to do an announcement, and then I lost track of it.
I thought, boy, Alex may do a Cochrane just because of that. I didn't know if you had time. You're reading today, so you probably didn't have a lot of extra time.
I didn't see it. Yeah, didn't it come out during the show?
I think it was either like right up at the top. For some reason, I caught my eye out of the corner of my iPad when I was booting it to do something else, and I went, oh,
yeah,
8K 360.
This is the X5, the new X5.
The X5, yeah.
It looks good.